Hello everyone, welcome back to Oculus Occulta. My name is KiKi and today we'll be looking at all the different meanings of the Emperor card from the Rider-Waite Tarot deck. As usual, we'll be going over a lot of symbolism and meanings, so let's jump right in and begin. We start, as always, by describing what we see on the card itself. We see a mature-looking man with a white beard, facing us seated on a throne. He is wearing a crown, a cloak with a ram's head on his left shoulder, and his shoes suggest that he is wearing armor underneath his robes. The throne is also decorated with ram's heads, and behind him there is a mountain range and the sky is an orangey color, suggesting either a sunrise or a sunset. There's a small stream of water at the base of the mountains, and the major colors on this card are red and orange. As we have done before, we will be sourcing Teresa Reed's tarot coloring book for the color Symbolism. According to Reed, red represents vitality, love, passion, action, and danger, while orange represents success, aspiration, and fun. In the Emperor's right hand, there is a scepter in the shape of an ankh, the ancient Egyptian symbol for life, and in his left hand, a globe. Much like in the previous card we saw, the Empress, the Emperor is holding a scepter and a globe. We said in the last video that the scepter is a phallic symbol, while the globe is a feminine symbol, likely hearkening to the roundness of the womb. The globe can also represent the globe Earth as well, indicating dominion over the world, which is what we would expect with these two authority figures. With regards to the Emperor, though, the phallic symbol of the scepter is more emphasized because this card is the masculine counterpart to the Empress. If the Empress represents a woman, then the Emperor represents a man. It is important to note, however, that this is a general statement and does not always need to be the case. As we will see in a moment, I have personal experience with a time when the Emperor represented a female client who was receiving a reading from me. This just goes to show that while we say things like the Empress is a woman and the Emperor is a man, in reality the opposite may be true. The Empress may represent a man while the Emperor represents a woman. Furthermore, we are now, as a collective, much more aware than we were, say, 10 years ago, of the fluid nature of gender in general, and we accept that male versus female is a dichotomy that can be more arbitrary than we realize. That being said, these cards can represent anyone falling anywhere within the sex and gender spectrum. What is more important than the gender or the color of the hair or skin is their character, and tarot can pick up on the attitudes, the characters, and the states of mind of people and reflect that back with these small images we hold in our hands. Again, life is not always black and white, up or down, male or female, and with that in mind, remember that these cards, gendered as they may be and representing traditional characteristics ascribed to classic concepts of what a man or a woman should be, do not always reflect a literal meaning. Further still, they may not represent people at all, but rather concepts or ideas or, as mentioned before, attitudes and characteristics. And so we move on to what the attitude and characteristics of the Emperor would suggest, and they are, fortunately or unfortunately, however you choose to view it, tied to those values that are traditionally ascribed to masculinity, which include rationality, logic, pragmatism, action, protection, provision, and strength. So let's go over some of the major symbols we see in this card, starting from the top. First, we see that he is wearing a crown. Simply put, the crown emphasizes the Emperor's authority. The other symbols of his authority include the throne he sits on, his robes, and the scepter in his hand. We already said that the scepter represents the phallus and thus is a symbol of his masculinity. Compared to the Empress, the Emperor's scepter is much bigger, which again emphasizes the divine masculine aspect of this card. However, it is interesting to note that two symbols of femininity can still be found here. The first is the globe and the second is the small stream at the base of the mountain range. The water has connections to females through multiple dimensions, many of which we already talked about in the High Priestess and the Empress. But one that we may not have gone into too much depth is the connection between water and emotions. If you have ever read about astrology or tarot before, you've likely heard that water, as one of the 4 basic elements, represents emotions, the subconscious, and psychic abilities. Why is this? Well, with regards to psychic abilities, we can look at the ancient art of scrying. Scrying is the act of divination using a reflective surface such as a mirror, a crystal ball, a reflective black surface, or the surface of water. Since the act of divination or the use of psychic abilities requires a silencing of the conscious mind, we can say that we use our feelings and our subconscious mind over our logical mind when we tap into our psychic abilities. Thus, we can establish a somewhat loose association between water, the subconscious, and our feelings. Further, because our emotions can ebb and flow, sometimes out of our control, we liken the feelings of emotions to the movement of water, such as in the English expression, "a wave of sadness washed over me," for instance. With relation to the Emperor, this small stream of water lets us know that, despite the fact that this man is exhibiting qualities of the divine masculine, he is not completely devoid of feeling or intuition. In fact, both the Empress and the Emperor have aspects of their opposing gender in order to maintain their balance. The water and the globe here are reminders that the Emperor is in touch with the feminine, even if only slightly. There are 5 ram heads on this card, 4 on the throne and 1 on the Emperor's left shoulder. The ram is the symbol of both the zodiac sign of Aries and its ruling planet Mars. Mars is the Roman name of the equivalent Greek god Eris, both of whom were gods of war and the military. We see in the Emperor's clothes that he is wearing armor, and thus he too is part of the military. As Emperor, he is the leader of said military, much in the same way that the President of the United States is considered the commander-in-chief of the military, the police, and other state security agencies. So, in these associations, we have once again the aspects of divine masculine, which includes that of leader and protector. Similarly, in the most traditional sense, the male will have these same roles in the home, as he is expected to lead in conjunction with the female or the empress, and protect her and the children. Again, I know these traditional concepts can be uncomfortable and sometimes offensive in this day and age, but take them at face value and remember that they represent a relic of our collective past. Tarot should not feel wrong to you, and if you decide to reject these concepts, you are free to do so. Nonetheless, it is still useful to know where these symbols and concepts come from in order to have a more robust understanding of the cards and to help us better decide what ideas we want to keep and which we think we can get rid of in our own practice. The next thing to address is the mountain range behind the Emperor. In the Fool card, there was a distant mountain range that we suggested could mean potential obstacles, and we can still have that same meaning here. However, while the Fool was blissfully ignorant of what lay ahead of him as he was looking up towards the clouds, the Emperor looks undeterred by the obstacles behind him. If anything, he seems to be comfortable with them in the background, neither afraid nor apprehensive. His face is stern, almost angry, but he's not afraid. Thus, we can say the Emperor represents someone who is not afraid of a challenge, someone who can see an obstacle, but who does not shy away from it. Also, because the mountain range is directly behind him, it could represent a person who has already gone through many obstacles and has come out successful. He is a king now, after having climbed over those mountains to reach the throne. It is not an easy task to move mountains. They represent things that are hard to change, hard to move, and hard to overcome. In this way, they can symbolize someone who is stubborn, hard-headed, or traditional in their ways. We tend to stereotype older people by saying that they are stuck in their ways and that they resist change presented to them by newer generations or younger people. This is, of course, a stereotype, but for the purposes of symbolism, this is what is being implied in this card. Again, the white beard of the Emperor suggests someone older or very experienced. Because of his tried and true methods or rituals, he is comfortable with his own way of doing things, and the mountains behind him symbolize his unwillingness to move or budge in that regard. Finally, we can address the concrete throne the Emperor sits on as one of several signs of stability, including the mountain range and the numerical value of 4. The seat is made of stone or concrete, which suggests durability and longevity. Interestingly enough, while it wasn't addressed in the last video, the Empress is also seated on a stone or concrete seat. However, she had luxurious pillows to offset any potential discomfort. Seeing as there are several similarities between the Emperor and the Empress, we should address more thoroughly the idea that the Emperor is the Empress's counterpart. If the Empress is a mother, then the Emperor is a father, and oftentimes you will see this very straightforwardly in your tarot readings. I know I have very often seen both the Empress and the Emperor together representing a client's parents. Even if they are single parents, I have still seen the Emperor representing the father and the Empress representing the mother. But again, these are not hard and fast rules. If someone's father is better represented as the King of Cups, then that is the card that will come up representing that person's father. Nonetheless, the Emperor in a reading can very well represent an older man, a father, grandfather, stepfather, father-in-law, uncle, older brother, or influential man in the querent's life. In my own experience, I have seen women get the Emperor card when they have ambitions to become leaders, especially in male-dominated fields. For instance, I had a female client who was an attorney once ask me about whether or not she would receive a clerkship position which she needed in order to progress in her law career. The Emperor showed up in her reading, and while looking at him, I suddenly saw the word judge. So I asked her, "Do you want to eventually become a judge?" And she said, "Yes, I do, and in fact, getting this clerkship was one of the early steps in her career down the path to eventually becoming a judge." So while the Emperor could have represented a judge she had to work with, especially a male, in that moment it rather represented her own ambitions to become a judge herself, a job which has traditionally been associated with men. In his shadow aspect, the Emperor represents toxic masculinity. He is a tyrant, obstinate, a bully, and an abuser of power. When he casts his shadow over the domestic sphere, his female counterpart and their children are afraid of him. They can't rely on him as he is unstable, volatile, and quick to anger. He protects and supports no one. He is selfish and distant. He is the classic image of the abusive or absent father. He is the opposite of brave and dependable. He may be a coward or a liar. He has no honor. He is dishonest and violent. He cannot be trusted. He represents a lack of authority, so he is associated with hoodlums, rapists, murderers, and criminals. He is dangerous, and there has been much said about him throughout history, and none of it is good. Numerologically speaking, the Emperor is card 4, and thus is associated with the other 4s in the tarot deck, including the 13th card, Death. Remember that we reduce double digits by adding them down to a single digit, and thus the 1 and 3 from 13 get added together to give us 4. According to numerous sources, the number 4 represents stability, foundations, structure, and manifestations. With regards to the Emperor, the aspects of stability and structure and even foundations are very obvious. The Emperor himself, his ability to rule a kingdom, what he had to do or overcome in order to establish himself as king, are all the consequences of having a stable mind, a structured work ethic, and having a foundation of experience upon which to build character. With regards to manifestation, the Emperor's position as ruler or leader, a trusted, well-seasoned guide, is the manifestation itself. How many of us want to be our own boss, for example, or to get a promotion at work? How many of us strive to be experts in our field, to have some authority in whatever it is we do? How many of us are not satisfied with being average, but rather want to gain more experience, more knowledge, and get more hours under our belt in our chosen profession? And once we finally accomplish that, don't we feel as if we have finally manifested something good for ourselves? In my example of the female lawyer who wanted to be a judge, becoming the Emperor was, in fact, what she wanted to manifest. Now, as it relates to death, the concept of the number 4 is a bit more abstract. First off, the visual similarities between the two are sparse but striking. The death card is much more gray, but in the distance you will notice the sun in the horizon. Because of this card's connotation, it's probably not a bad idea to assume that this is a sunset. However, it doesn't have to be. It may be a sunrise. We can explore this more when we get to the death card, but this is similar to the Emperor card as we said earlier. The orange sky may represent a sunrise or a sunset. Further, both of these characters are wearing armor, and so they are both ready for war. If anything is a sure thing in life, it is death. Therefore, while dreaded, the Reaper is still dependable, the way the Emperor is someone dependable. He too is a sure thing because he is disciplined and predictable. The difference, however, is in the fundamental meaning of death, which is change. The Emperor does not represent change per se. He represents the slow build, the discipline, and the tried and true rituals that get us to an established position in life. The death card, however, represents the end of a cycle or situation, and as life goes on, even in the face of death, this card hints at the beginning of another cycle, much in the same way that the ambiguous sun in the distance can represent the sun setting on one situation, but rising for the next. This cycle itself, then, is what is stable and unchanging on the whole. It reminds me of the ancient Greek philosopher Heraclitus, who said, "The only constant in life is change." Astrologically, the Emperor is very much associated with the planet Mars, which traditionally rules 2 zodiac signs, Aries, a fire sign, and Scorpio, a water sign. Before Pluto was discovered, Scorpio was ruled by Mars, but now modern astrologers have ascribed Pluto to Scorpio. That is its own topic, but it is worth noting once again a connection to the Empress here. We said that the Empress was ruled by Venus, who rules Taurus and Libra. On a traditional zodiac wheel, Libra sits opposite to Aries, while Taurus sits opposite to Scorpio. Once again, we are emphasizing the dichotomy of the Empress versus the Emperor. They are opposites, yet they are connected. Interesting to note as well is that the Death card, as we will eventually see, is ruled by Scorpio, as Scorpio rules the 8th house, the house of sex and death. Traditionally, Mars represents action, vibrance, courage, honesty, sexual prowess, energy, protectiveness, and honor. Both Aries and Scorpio similarly exhibit aspects of Mars energy, including both being adventurous and hypersexual. In their shadow aspect, both Aries and Scorpio tempers are to be feared, even more so than the other zodiac signs. But in their light aspects, these are two of the bravest, most protective, and most honest people you'll ever meet. Now that we've gone over the major symbology of the Emperor, let's go over some of the specific meanings ascribed to the card, starting with the general upright meanings. The general upright meaning of the Emperor includes a father, grandfather, stepfather, father-in-law, uncle, brother, older male or influential male, boss, professor, superior, senior management. He may represent an institution such as a university, a hospital, a courthouse, or a government. He can represent well-established people and places. Discipline, ritual or routine, honor and accomplishment, accolades and awards, recognition for hard work, promotions, CEO positions, managerial positions. Order, rules, authority, institutions of law, protection, provider, wise counsel, ask the boss, military and paramilitary, including police and firefighters, head of a building, company, or organization, kings, presidents, prime ministers, chivalry, traditional masculinity, the divine masculine, logic, pragmatism, rationality, intellect, action, energy, doing, making, building, producing, power and influence, legacy and the family bloodline, hereditary things, large inheritances. The general reverse meanings of the Emperor may include abusive or absent fathers, husbands, sons, or brothers, etc., delinquents, hoodlums, criminals, physical violence, emotionally or psychologically abusive people, sexually deviant or abusive people, dangerous sadomasochism, sexual violence, cruelty, meanness, brutality, toxic masculinity, restrictive or oppressive patriarchy, heartless, sociopaths and psychopaths, failure, lack of accomplishment, lack of discipline, obstinate, stubborn, refuses to listen, selfish and controlling, cowardly, runs away from problems or adversity, cannot provide, cannot produce, impotence, either figuratively or literally, infertility or the inability to produce children, a lousy husband or boyfriend, bumbling and incompetent, violent temper, unstable and unpredictable, disagreeable, a tyrant, corrupt leader, corrupt or dictatorial governments, loss of position, war, famine, loss in battle, misogynists, men who abuse women and children in various ways, cuckoldry and false paternity. You are not the father. The upright Emperor in love, relationship, and sex readings may suggest an older lover, a sugar daddy, or a significant age gap between lovers, sex that leads to children, an interest in having children, a father-daughter dynamic, daddy or dominant in a sadomasochism context, the healthy version, this is not violent or dangerous, a stable, committed relationship, it may suggest marriage or someone who is husband material, a partner that can and wants to provide and protect, a wise, disciplined, well-put-together partner, someone who has a hard time understanding or expressing feelings but they're not malicious or mean about it, someone who shows love through support and action rather than trinkets or words, someone who aims to be a provider more than a romantic, a stable and reliable and honest person. The relationship is rock solid, has a good foundation. Very good card for marriage or commitment. A long-term relationship is coming. Standing one's ground in an argument. Setting healthy and needed boundaries in a relationship. It may even suggest sex with a boss or someone influential. It may suggest using sex to get ahead. It may also represent a territorial or jealous lover, someone who's protective and sees you as his or hers. Now, because it's upright, I would say that this has not become a problem yet. Remember that there's a shadow aspect to this type of behavior as well. It may also represent someone who is serious, studious, hardworking, and maybe a little bit boring. In love and relationship and sex meanings, the reverse emperor may suggest an inappropriate age gap, taking advantage of a younger partner, or an old man being used for his money or power. It may suggest daddy issues or a poor image of men influencing a current relationship. It may suggest a history of abuse, which makes sex and intimacy difficult, traumatic, or impossible. It can suggest an abusive husband, boyfriend, or ex-husband. A once stable relationship is now rocky and unsure. Divorce or breakup, especially of a long-term relationship. Infidelity. A husband or boyfriend who has run-ins with the law. He may be a criminal or he may be in prison. Someone who is controlling, abusive, dangerous. Someone who is wimpy, cowardly, incapable, or impressionable. Someone who refuses to compromise. There may be feelings of anger or resentment in a relationship. Someone may be wanting to get even with their partner or punish them for a perceived wrong. There may be refusal to communicate. There may be violating of your boundaries. It could represent stalking or dangerous and criminal behavior. It may represent a toxic relationship. Beware of these kinds of people or red flags if you're single. An unreliable partner or relationship. An immature, lazy, indecisive bum of a partner. Someone who runs away from arguments or gives you the silent treatment or cheats instead of working through disagreements. In money, work, and school, the upright emperor suggests promotions, management and leadership positions, boss status, leaders of industry, working for a large or well-established business or organization, going to an old, well-established, possibly Ivy League school, graduating on time with many accolades, rewards, certificates, and accomplishments. Wealth, inheritance, loans given out freely, jumbo loans, large blue-chip companies, stable long-term investments, and conservative stock portfolios. Health and life insurance, establishing a will and trust, having money in the bank, exams are passed with high marks and honors, professional and graduate schools, a career in law, politics, business, or leadership in general, opening your own business that will be well established in the future, creating a financial legacy, leaving money for children and spouse, being able to provide, money is there when you need it, a stable job. Financial and or educational competence, you are very capable. Being influential in your field of work or study, being an expert, large journals or magazines like Forbes. Investments flourish spectacularly. Government jobs, military security and benefits. Joining the military or a military academy. Becoming a landowner or landlord. The reverse emperor in money, work, and school may suggest difficulty in obtaining a leadership position, difficulty remaining disciplined in school, not getting along with the boss or management, not getting a promotion or recognition for efforts, not making the grades for honors or scholarships, not outright failure unless other cards indicate it. A bumpy road financially and academically, but it's not impossible. Feeling drained or tired or reluctant to go on when the going gets tough at work or school. The boss just quit, having no or poor guidance. A large company is struggling. Corrupt practices behind the scenes. A sleazy boss or professor. Try to avoid financial risks or iffy investments at this time. Read all fine print. Run-ins with authority. Called into the dean's office, academic probation, audits or inspections, owing taxes or having to pay back government loans or student loans. A mortgage or rent money is due. Legal obligations. Exams may be needed to be repeated. Delays in degree acquisition. A competitor got first place. Money or income is unstable for now. The personality, jobs, and thoughts of the emperor upright may include men, especially older or influential men, fathers, husbands, grandfathers, uncles, brothers, male friends, stepfathers, fathers-in-law, bosses, presidents, CEOs, CFOs, prime ministers, politicians, kings, princes, heads of state, chancellors. military personnel, generals, strategists, people close to the president, Secret Service, paramilitary groups including the Coast Guard, police, correctional officers, jail wardens, firefighters, detectives, the FBI, and all branches of armed forces. He may suggest professors, experts, writers, lecturers, speakers, influencers, lawyers, judges, the Supreme Court and courthouses, legal experts, the legal establishment in general, law schools, landlords, landowners, real estate moguls, entrepreneurs, business owners, big businesses in general, older established businesses, family businesses, doctors, specialists, chief of medicine, hospitals, medical schools, the CDC, government workers, and the government in general, personal trainers, life coaches, psychiatrists, and psychologists, disciplined, routine, motivated, and persistent people, people with leadership goals, self-directed people, blunt, honest, and practical people, people who choose logic over feelings, pragmatism over theory, and action over ideas, driven, high-achieving people, law-abiding, authoritative, decent people, wise, motivating, and encouraging people. The personality, jobs, and thoughts of the reverse emperor may include all shadow aspects of the father archetype, neglectful or absent parents, toxic or controlling parents, narcissistic parents, parents with antisocial or conduct disorders, parents with impossibly high expectations or standards, overly strict or religious parents, abusive parents, controlling, bossy, or domineering people, selfish or cold people, chaotic, unreliable, unpredictable people, violent, abusive, dangerous people, bullies and criminals, people with no discipline or sense of self-direction, immature people, underachievers, people with no goals in mind and no plans for the future, people who hate authority or establishment, such as anarchists, children who constantly get in trouble at school or with the law, children with conduct disorders, stubborn, tyrannical, obstinate, and selfish people, cowardly, avoidant, weak-willed, and wimpy people, people with no routine or order in their lives, a failing business, slumlords, and deadbeat dads and cuckolds. The advice, outcome, and actions of the upright emperor include: be disciplined, establish boundaries, take the leadership position, follow a routine and stick with it for the long run, think about the future and your legacy. You need to study, work, hustle, put in the time and effort if you want results. Be committed. Take control of your emotions. Calm yourself. Be brave. Face your troubles head on. Now is the time for action. Take charge. Aim higher. Stay motivated. This is not the time to quit. Firm persistence is required of you now. Take a conservative approach. Seek counsel from a superior or senior. Lead the way. And while it's not listed on here, as I forgot to put it in a yes or no question spread, the Emperor upright is a yes. The advice, outcome, and actions of the reverse Emperor include: you are lacking discipline at this time. Find motivation. Ask for help from an expert. You need it now. You are being a bully. Take a softer approach. Brute force will not work in this situation. If you are being abused, seek help immediately. Be careful to follow the law. Being sneaky or dishonest now may have consequences. Poor counsel. Seek the expertise of someone else. Being assertive now is not beneficial. Beware of incompetence, either by you or someone else. Instability in a matter. Shaky ground. Beware of a violent situation. Run-ins with the law for you or someone you know. Establish or re-establish your boundaries. Get a grip on your emotions. Unstable people may cause problems. Beware of uncooperative people or organizations. Keep your motivations and your goals to yourself. And in a yes or no spread, the Emperor reversed is a no. So, we've gone over some of the meanings traditionally ascribed to the Emperor card, and we've touched on a few of those meanings as they pertain to love, money, people, and actions. We're still not done, of course, as we need to now incorporate words and phrases that we sense through our intuition and through practice. At this point, I leave it up to you to add to these categories as you see fit with more meanings, or remove some of the meanings that don't resonate with you from the list I've given. The good thing about tarot is that it's abstract and subjective, and, for the most part, the meanings that are traditionally given to the cards are something of a suggestion. In the end, you could ignore everything we've talked about today and give the Emperor your own personal meaning, as long as it helps you read the cards in a productive manner. Whatever method works for you is the correct one. With that being said, I would like to now turn it over to you and learn from all of you. What are some meanings you have found to be characteristic of the Emperor in your experience and practice? If you use other systems of tarot, such as the Tarot de Marseille, what differences would you note when comparing the meanings to those of the Rider-Waite system? Are there non-traditional meanings you use in your practice, and if so, how did you come to use them? Okay, that's it for now, and I hope this helped you on your tarot learning journey. If you'd like to see more videos about tarot, then please feel free to subscribe to the channel, as I aim to make more videos on topics related to cartomancy, witchcraft, and occultism in general. I also plan on doing some book reviews and recommendations on various topics related to esoterica and spirituality in the future, so be on the lookout for that too if you're interested. If you want to help this channel grow, then please interact with this video by liking it or sharing it with other like-minded people. And please do leave me some comments to let me know if this was helpful at all, or if not, how could I make it more useful? What other topics would you like to see discussed here? Please leave any suggestions or questions in the comment section below if you want. Thank you very much for being here with me today, and I hope to see you all very soon in another video. Take care, and we'll talk soon.